All right. Welcome back to another episode of your platform podcast. I'm here with my guest, Molly Bruno, with the Utopia Real Estate
Company.
Company.
Thanks for having me.
I was going to say brokerage.
Well, I am a brokerage.
I,
That's a good way to describe me.
yeah. So, broker owner. And I've been following you pretty closely because I think we joined our respective industries just about the same time.
Right.
I started in 2015, and I think you started early 2016, correct?
That sounds right.
Yeah. I stalked your Facebook page just to confirm,
Oh,
and
excellent.
LinkedIn, which I'm still waiting for the confirmation of request, Molly.
Oh, what?
you haven't accepted it, but it's okay. All good after today.
LinkedIn is like the one that I don't check as often.
Why not?
I don't know.
It is one of those platforms that you have to. It's not like Facebook or Instagram where uh, you get more attention to the content that you put out. It's strictly professional. I've seen over the last couple of years that they've tried to transition into what Facebook does, but it doesn't work. But anyway, Molly, I appreciate you coming on to this show. As I mentioned previous to here, I'm about 2 months into recording and starting this podcast. And the idea is, I believe everybody has a story. I think that in today's world, we need to share those stories a little bit more. I think we do in a sense with the people that we have. But this is more for the listeners that don't know us.
For sure.
And it gives them a perspective of, oh, wow, I want to do this. And they just explain how, how they did it. So that's kind of what my premises of this show was. But before we kind of go into some of the stuff that we are going to discuss today, which is relationship building. And I think specifically you said in community development and the economic development piece. I had dug in a little bit for myself, but I'm really excited to hear your perspective from this, of this. But give me a quick rundown, your background, where you started, why you started, and what pivoted you into real estate.
So I really had no aspirations growing up or in college to go into real estate or any sort of sales. I originally went to school for journalism, and when I went to college, I walked away with an anthropology degree, but I had taken some classes related to communications, journalism, marketing, design. And when I graduated, which was a terrible time to graduate college, 2008, there weren't a ton of jobs, but I had basically digital marketing skills, which I didn't even know that was a career at the time. And I got involved with working with organizations, small businesses, doing marketing, essentially small design projects and branding, and helping them put out social media stuff, email marketing. And I ended up working at a local company that was doing e-commerce and helped them manage their huge database for selling products online. So really, I was kind of self-taught in a lot of ways, where I was just thrown into a bunch of roles where they're like, well, you can figure this out.
Yeah.
You have skills. Like, I grew up like designing my own GeoCities website, like
Wow.
that type of stuff. And like, I loved making PowerPoints. Like, that's the nerd in me.
Yeah.
So throw me out into the professional world, and the people doing jobs that required some design stuff, they didn't necessarily have the skills to do it. And I was kind of self-taught. And so I really learned how to do, like, operate in an office, be part of a team and all that in these professional settings. But I really didn't have any mentors teaching me what I was doing.
Right.
As far as the design stuff, it was kind of just something I kind of worked out on my own. And one of the things I did right before I was got into real estate was I owned a restaurant in Groton. It was called Green Submarine Deli. And that was essentially where I learned how to run a business and, be everything soup to nuts. You're doing the accounting for yourself, bookkeeping. Like, we did have someone doing our taxes for us, but ordering, branding, being out there in the public eye, running events, all that type of stuff. And I had that with my ex-husband.
Mhm.
So once we decided to shut the deli down, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I had all these marketing skills, and I essentially took a job being a marketer for a big producing real estate team
Mhm.
through a Craigslist ad. And I had no intention of becoming a real estate agent
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
And but they essentially hired me on the spot, said they had a good feeling about me, and they were like, "Well, you should get your license." And I was just like, "Okay, whatever,"
Why not? Yeah.
So it's just like a Saturday class, just a 60-hour class, and I was like, "We'll just add it to the skills." And like, I'm a completely different person who I am today than I was when I started as that assistant,
Sure.
because I had to essentially learn all the like in-person sales, soft skills,
Mhm.
working with clients. Because before that, I was just behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I wasn't like the spokesperson or the front runner for anything. Um, but once I jumped into real estate, I realized like you have to build those things up to really have any sort of credibility
Sure.
in the real estate industry, because people are essentially uh, based if they want to work with you on if they know, like, or
Right.
trust
Right.
you.
Right.
And I was like such a baby in
Yeah.
the community. Like, I didn't have, like, I knew people, but I didn't have the sphere I have
Sure.
today. So essentially, um, to tie it back to the community part, is I saw that I did have interest in helping build a community. My
Mhm.
hometown, Norwich, had always been in this revitalization,
Sure.
focus on small business, helping people grow. So I really kind of dove into that. And through those two things, real estate and the community part, I really found like I like to be part of that
Yeah.
bigger picture
Yeah.
and have an effect on not only where I lived, but where I was helping other people live and maybe move to
Right.
and have a stake in the community.
That's amazing. I think what I've noticed about you over the years, you have grown such a sphere, and I want to dive into that a little bit because I think networking one is the greatest thing, not only because of what it does for you and your business, but also what it does for, like you said, the community and the people around you. So, uh, you know, let's talk about real estate and building relationships there. What benefits from a real estate? This is more with a kind of a client base.
Mhm.
What benefits have you seen with building relationships within the real estate clients that built with?
Well, a lot of times, like when I first started working in a professional world, people would always say, "Oh, your relationships are everything." And that sounds like just a line. Like, I didn't really totally get what that meant. But really, the more that you connect with people on a deeper level, the more that they trust what you're saying.
Mhm.
And, when you're guiding people through a very stressful situation, whether it's moving or downsizing or dealing with a death of a loved one, if they're like the probate person,
Mhm.
um, really having that trust with someone helps them to listen to you.
Right.
And not to say that like I'm always right. I like to give my clients
Yeah.
choices at
Yeah.
least so that they feel like they can navigate through these big decisions
Mhm.
without necessarily knowing, because this might be the one or only time that they're making these decisions.
Right.
And um so building that trust with people, I think that's been really how it's it's almost like the thrill of like, oh, someone
Yeah.
trusts me on this deep level where they're choosing
Right.
to work with me
Right.
in their
Yeah.
really emotional, very personal transactions.
Yeah.
And commercial may not be as
Sure.
emotional or tied, but a lot of small business people who I work with,
Yeah.
their business is their baby. So
Right.
a lot
Right.
of times it's that emotional relationship with their business,
Yeah.
not just where they're living.
Can I jump into just kind of
Yeah,
really what I want to know?
go ahead.
What's that? Because I'm trying to look at it from a systematic approach, and not for like, oh, I want to do things robotically, but I also want to learn, what that looks like. Is it a matter of, I've had several conversations with people and on my podcast, and a couple of them is like we get into these scenarios and we feel super awkward, we feel super anxious, and I need maybe someone next to me that I'm comfortable with to
Mhm.
then go ahead and be able to quote unquote be myself.
Mhm.
You know, for you early on, what was that for you like, and how did you push yourself through being able to get past that anxious moment of, hey,
Yeah.
you know, I need this one because my why is my business, my second why is my community, and I just want to be able to help. How did you get through that?
So I was painfully shy as a kid. And so I knew my weaknesses. I think knowing yourself in business really helps you focus in on what you can change. And,
Mhm.
obviously there's some things that will never change, you can change about yourself. But the more that you know yourself, the more you know how to push through either that discomfort
Mhm.
with someone or how you can feel more confident.
Right.
So essentially, the last 8 years have focused on building up my
Sure.
confidence.
How did you do that?
So essentially, like taking the things that scare me the most.
Okay.
So, like when I was a teenager, I was afraid of diving headfirst into a pool.
So when you got your license, you dove headfirst into a pool. So
So
I'm messing with
exactly,
you. I'm messing with you.
pretty
Yeah,
much. But
yeah.
so I joined the swim team,
Wow.
and part of it is learning how to do the dive into the water.
Wow.
And like as a kid, like I have a very vivid memory of as a little kid of like being too scared to jump in the water, people
Mm.
making fun of me,
Wow.
and like that traumatizes
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
So as a teenager, I'm like, I'm not going to be scared of this anymore. I'm
Right.
just going to learn how to do it. And I was like the worst swimmer on the team, but I could jump into water after a while.
Sure.
So I was like, as you do that, you realize like, oh, it's not that scary.
Right.
Like you have to build those muscles of dealing with that discomfort and getting to the other side.
Mhm.
So public speaking used to terrify me. I would be up all night the night before and be like, oh my God, I can't talk in front of people. I have no idea what to say. And like that just jumble of anxiety would just like take over. And I knew as a real estate agent, you can't be just terrified every time you're with somebody
Right.
or presenting to, a person.
Yeah.
And so early on, I started hosting trivia, which, you don't have to say anything important.
Mhm.
You're just kind of reading off of cards,
Mhm.
but even just speaking into a microphone, like that was something like I didn't have experience with. Like
Right.
I didn't know what like people are looking at you, like
Yeah, yeah.
all the things that associate with that. So that helped me start to build my confidence.
Sure.
And in real estate, it really was like diving into a pool
Yeah.
because the team that I was on, they were very much like sink or swim.
Mhm.
They just kind of threw me out into the real estate world. And luckily, I had, I guess, enough confidence to just be okay with not being great in the beginning.
Right.
And I think that's not something that people are very comfortable with. Like a lot of people like to be told what to do,
Yeah.
surprisingly.
Right. Right.
And I don't like to be told what to do.
Yeah.
But I think you have to have that kind of inner intuition and inner voice
Mhm.
of like, you have this, you have to be able to build yourself up to get through whatever's
Right.
happening, to be able to calm yourself down, self-soothe,
Mhm.
all those things. A lot of it's like the
Yeah.
mental health piece,
Right.
like not.
That's been a big topic on my
Mhm.
show, and it's been increasingly not just mental health, but the ways to overcome certain anxieties.
Yep.
Was there things that you did to mentally get into a preparation mode? As, people do breath work, they'll go work out in the morning. People use spirituality to get them, ready for the day. Was there things that you would have to do for yourself?
So I'm also a trained yoga teacher,
Oh,
and
nice.
I haven't been teaching publicly for a little while now, but
I'm
that
sorry I
was
missed that in the intro.
that was a huge. I mean, that was a huge part of even just building my skills and confidence as a business owner,
Yeah,
because I was doing that kind of as I was transitioning out of working in an
yeah,
office. I was doing it while I was running the restaurant business
yeah,
and talking in front of people, telling them what to do with their
yeah.
bodies. Like that's like a stressor in itself
Right.
because people are trusting you to know like how to move in a
Sure.
in a class. So that was a huge part of I think what I took into
Yeah,
real estate
yeah.
to understand like it's a much deeper level than just going out and showing houses and
Right.
writing
It's a lot. It's
contracts.
a lot. It's like in sales in general, right? It's a
Mhm.
lot of mind body. So I think sales and I always correlate sales and sports together
Mhm.
because it's a lot of like mental ability, physical ability. You need to physically get up and do it
Right.
and have the energy to, communicate with the people that you're working with. And also, I got to imagine that the yoga helped you with that, right? Be able to kind of quiet your mind. I've never done yoga.
I mean, I think it is similar to sports where, visualization is huge.
Yeah,
Um, being able to slow your thoughts
yeah.
down, like, I don't know if that's something that you might be doing meditation without even knowing.
Right, right. I wonder why, and maybe you have a quick, and this is actually just off the cuff. Wonder why like people have such a hard time in sales and real estate early on in their
Mhm.
careers. What do you think that is? Is it because of the um the lack of skill to build relationship, or do you think it's maybe people jumped right in and kind of didn't expect or prepare? What do you think?
I think it could be all of those things. Or I think knowing yourself and knowing your strengths and what to work on. I think people don't look inward a lot.
Sure.
They're just like, I made these phone calls. Like, what am I doing wrong?
Mhm.
And they don't necessarily have a mentor either.
Right.
So I had really great mentors who were modeling, how to talk to people, how to problem solve.
Yeah.
And those are things that it's not like something you can read in a book
Right.
and just be like, oh, well, I know how to figure out, how to negotiate. Like
Yeah.
it's something you have to practice. And not everyone has that, I think, comfort with failure.
Yep.
I think failure is a huge thing. Like I definitely made all the mistakes.
Yeah.
Like you burn yourself out, you work too much, you take too many clients on, um, you say something wrong to someone and then they never call you back. Like all those things, like I did all those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Like I'm only who I am because I've made those mistakes.
Yeah.
And instead of being consumed with like blaming myself
Right.
or, being so hard on myself, it's like, you just have to pick up the pieces and
Yeah.
keep going. And also, like, I try to give back to
Mhm.
people who are new in the industry because I know how hard it is.
Yeah.
Because, especially in real estate, like, no one's trying to help you succeed
Mhm.
as a new agent.
Yeah.
Like, they're all like, oh, well, I've been in this business 20 years and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. So it's like to have one friendly, kind face in the world that's going to be like, you got this.
Right.
It's okay. Like, tomorrow's going to be a different day.
Yeah.
Um, it is a mentally
Yeah.
tough
Yeah.
business, and not everyone wants to necessarily have like that roller coaster.
Right.
I think a lot of people with like ADHD are attracted to sales. It's
Mhm.
like gambling, like you have that roller coaster. Not everything's going to be good,
Yeah.
but when things are good, it's like so satisfying.
Yeah. It is, and you explained it perfectly. It is a roller coaster. And I said on one of my shows that I've had really good years,
Mhm.
and everything is good and it feels great. And then there's some years that I've written very little insurance,
Right.
and you said you had mentioned like it's easy to self or negative talk to
Hmm.
yourself on that, and uh, I think that there is a missing piece in sales organizations, and I said this again on my last show, that there's a gap between the sales piece and then the actual like well-being of the person that's on your team. And if they could
Absolutely.
focus on the well-being of somebody that's on your team, um, or teams, you probably get a little bit better results on that front. Um,
Yeah, and I think mental health is still like a stigmatized part of work,
it's downplayed.
and people don't want to talk about
Mhm.
it. They don't necessarily want to share, like, they think it makes them look weak if they're
Yeah.
having any sort of mental struggles.
Or some people are just like, I'm stubborn. I am stubborn as
Hmm.
can be. I like trying to think I can figure it out on my own, and
Oh
not
yeah, that's the biggest problem.
and not because of I'm worried about somebody else criticizing me or judging me,
Hmm.
but I think mainly because I've accomplished a lot in my life that and I have a lot of hard things that happen in my life that I've overcome that
Hmm.
I feel like I can overcome this on my own.
Hmm.
And sometimes you do need a little person, therapist, whomever it may be to
Absolutely.
get you over that hump.
And I think that's the community piece too, because I've been through major tragedies in my life. And I think I've been so grateful for the people who do step in and
Mhm.
provide that support because they know what you're going through and you don't even know what you need
Mhm.
when you're going through whatever traumatic thing is going on in your life. So I've always, like to pay that forward.
Sure.
If you see someone else struggling,
Mhm.
like they may not even know that they need to talk about it. Like you develop that intuition of
Right.
like this person needs to vent.
Mhm.
They maybe don't have those relationships in their life already where they trust someone, and that usually ends up happening in real estate
Yeah.
because people are either going through transitions in life, getting divorced, moving out of a house from their parents. They're in kind of in flux.
Right.
People are in transition. So you have to learn how to be that space where they can maybe unload some things.
Sure.
And so I think the more you do it, like, and people say that all the time, real
Yeah.
estate is like having a therapist,
Yeah.
but there's so much involved in how people make decisions.
Mhm.
It's not just like, buy or sell, like
Right.
because the
It's a
price is
lot of
up or
emotion,
down.
a lot of
Exactly.
emotion that goes into it. And I think what I love about you, and there's a saying that I've heard it on a few podcasts, and um, there's a gentleman that came to and spoke to my group over at Assured Partners. His name is Christos. I don't want to butcher his last name, but it's ChristosSpeaks.com. Big shout out to him because
Cool.
he studies human behavior, emotional intelligence, and really, what do you sell? And he pointed this out perfectly. If you are a photographer, what do you sell? You don't sell pictures,
Hmm.
you sell a memory,
Hmm.
right? And I think what I love about you is you uh he goes, people don't ever remember what you did for them, they remember how you made them feel,
Absolutely.
and that's how you built your community around them. So to that point, when you meet a new client, what's those beginning rapport process steps that you take to get them to feel comfortable?
So I'm a big proponent of just asking them about their life, who's in their life. Do they have a partner? Do they have
Yeah.
kids? People love talking about their families, and that it's also useful to know like who's going to be living in the house.
Right. Right. Right.
um, and I think really just listening to
Mhm.
people and then remembering those things the next time you see them, because people love it
Yeah.
when you remember, oh, my kid, has a soccer game that they're going to after you're showing or
Yeah.
whatever. So the more that you actually have a genuine connection with someone and actually want to know more about their lives, I think that's been my superpower. I was just telling someone the other day, like, I actually listen to people.
Yeah.
I'm not just like, oh, you're the next showing.
Right.
The person who's looking at the house, they're not just this, robot.
Right.
They have human relationships, they have feelings, and then even like sharing things about myself. Like I could be a very private person,
Yeah.
um, but the more that you open up to them, it's that shared vulnerability.
Sure.
Like, I think there's like studies about how like the more you share secrets, the more that they'll
Yeah.
share secrets back
Yeah.
with you. So it's like, if there's been times in my life like I went through a divorce while I had my real estate license was selling, like major things. Like I had
Mhm.
cancer.
Oh,
I didn't tell the people that I had it. Yeah, this was like 7 years ago.
wow.
Um, But the more that you, like, open up and see, like, you're like, wow, that's a secret that, I didn't
I
know."
never knew.
So when you have that experience, people realize, like, you're also a
Right.
human. You have those same experiences. You're not just a robot
Right.
who's going to, only care about getting this transaction to
Sure.
close.
Sure.
They see you as a human, and
Right.
like, that's how I help teach people how to show themselves in social media as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people will come up to me and say, "I don't know how you do your social media. I don't like to share anything about myself."
Yeah.
I'm like, "I'm not sharing everything."
Right. Right.
Like there's very curated
Yeah. Yeah.
things that I'm
For
sharing.
sure.
Like I share photos of food and restaurants that I go out in. sometimes my niece and nephew, because
Yeah.
I know like they're a huge part of my life,
Right.
and people like to connect with
Right.
those, people in your life.
How do you deal with the difficult people, right? Because it'd be easy to, or I wouldn't say easy, but we come across, and I don't want to say necessarily difficult people, but the people who are not giving you,
A fixed mindset.
yeah, they're not giving you everything that you're used to, right? That's not all most people, but that is a percentage of clients that come across the pipeline, if you will. And it's like, man, like how do I really try to break the wall on someone
For
that's
sure.
pretty difficult?
I think really kind of understanding where they're coming from,
Mhm.
because being young in real estate, people assume that you haven't lived, you don't have any
Yeah,
experience. So I'm always bringing, my A game,
sure.
essentially, to make sure that they know that even though I don't look like I've been working for 20 years in the industry, which I haven't,
Right, right.
it's not even 10 years,
Yeah, yeah.
that you know, I still know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
And I think, especially in our area, like New England, people can be abrasive, right?
Mhm.
So I think I think it's very client specific. Like some people, I'll turn up the warmth and like
Yeah,
the asking them questions about themselves,
yeah.
and then sometimes I kind of mirror them. Like if you're going to be like all business,
Right.
then I'm going to be all business,
But you find success with that approach though,
I don't
right?
know if I do.
But that's what you do. That's
I
good.
think just developing a thick skin, because I think very early on in my career, someone screamed at me on the phone,
Mm.
and I got off the phone and I like cried, sobbed, and I was like, never again will I let someone, whatever they're going through, take it personally, because
Yeah,
really it's not about me. They're
correct.
not screaming at me because I did anything wrong.
Right, right.
There's obviously something going on behind, whatever they're doing. So I think desensitizing yourself, which sounds terrible, but like you have to be able to get up the next day and be
Yeah,
like, all right, I can, manage this relationship with someone who I still have to
yeah.
help sell their house or
Right,
whatever. And a lot of times people obviously aren't doing it maliciously.
right.
You know, they I've had people apologize to
Mhm.
me, I think just to be able to, move forward from people's outbursts and difficulty of whatever they're going through, that's helped me kind of move forward and keep going, but also, I think we're in a time of our careers where we don't necessarily feel like we have to work with everybody.
That's 100% correct. That's 100% correct. There's a book that I've read, and I was going to ask you. The skills that you're telling me, they're learned by experience,
Mhm,
but it started somewhere. And for me, when I've learned some of the people build, relationship building skills, and developing relationships, uh, I go back to books. I read a lot of books,
mhm.
but one of the books that I love the best, and you tell me if there's anything that you might recommend, is How to Win Friends and Influence Others
Oh,
by
that's a
Dale
great one.
Carnegie.
Yep.
And he talks about in the book, if you can show genuine interest in people
Mhm,
as opposed to your self interest,
mhm.
that's where um, you'll see better results in the
Absolutely.
relationships. Is there any other books? I mean, outside of that you've read, or is that something that you have read and
Yeah, I mean, I've read a lot of like the business books, like the building business books, a lot of like the leadership
mm,
books. I think one good one is Leaders Eat Last,
mm,
where
by who? Do you know?
I forget who wrote it, but I think people forget this is a service industry.
Right.
So in everything that I do, if I'm not providing value
Mhm.
and treating this like a job, then there's no point in me continuing my career.
Right.
And I think people forget those service skills. Like I worked in restaurants, I was a waitress, I worked for tips. That prepares you for this industry like no
Sure.
other,
Sure.
because like and you notice, I think like my boyfriend's never worked in a restaurant. So we have this conflict all the time, like where we're out in a restaurant and he'll be upset with whatever's going on, and I never take things personally, because
Right.
like you never know, that person could, like, their mom could have died today. They had
Right.
to come to work.
Right.
They could be going through the worst thing, whatever. It's like
Yeah.
how they treat me is not going to affect how much money I'm leaving as a tip,
Right.
because I know like
Right.
they're the salt of the earth people, um, and I think that empathy and compassion for people helps me even get through.
Yeah, it fuels you.
Yes.
It fills your cup. It's amazing. That is such an amazing perspective. Um, and I try to practice that more and more as you.
Yeah, I'm not perfect. I'll
Yeah,
have bad days.
yeah,
I'm like, I hate everyone. I'm not talking to anyone ever
yeah,
again.
yeah. It really is. I think that we'll see change in this world in general if we could have more compassion and more empathy for other people. Other
Mhm.
people.
And so I guess one thing that I don't talk about a lot is I went to 9 years of Catholic school.
Oh,
So I think I had a really great background of
what school?
St.
Oh, you,
Pat's in Norwich,
oh, okay,
um, of just not, I guess, blaming people or, kind of understanding where people are coming from, and always like thinking the best of people
hmm.
and that everyone's just doing their
Well,
best.
that's we're all created equally, right?
Hmm.
And that's from a biblical perspective, that's what it is.
Yeah, I'm not super religious at all,
No,
but
but just when you go back to that
yeah,
principle,
yeah,
right?
like they taught kindness in
Yeah,
schools. Like
right.
they had like a student of the month, but it was really just about like if they were doing like good things and
Yeah.
and all that.
How do you maintain relationships with your past clients? Because we are in a business that residual referrals, right?
Mhm.
So someone you sold referred you to X, Y, and Z, and now they want ready to sell 10 years down the road, maybe not in this market, but they but
It's definitely helped because even in this market, the bulk of my business is people who I've already worked with.
mhm.
Be-
That you've resold.
yep, we either
Nice.
resold or people. A big part is people who've rented before and
Sure.
then are finally ready
Yeah.
to sell or buy. Um, I do a bunch of different things. So, like, I keep a pretty robust email list.
Mm,
So it's like kind of like a drip campaign, and so people either see what I'm doing, like especially because now I own my own
mm,
brokerage, bringing on a new agent. So people just feel like they're up to date with your life.
sure.
So that's like curating your
Right, right.
social media stuff, like no noting what to put out into the world just to let people know that you're still doing business,
Yeah.
you're still here for them.
I've gotten the emails.
Yeah. And a lot of times for people that I've done business with before, it's essentially doing like client
Yeah.
events. So like I like to do a holiday party and just invite people who I've worked with throughout the year, because you work with them so closely, like they become part of your family. So
Right,
it's
right.
like having those types of things where once I did a back to school like photo shoot for people so people could like bring their kids and get photos taken, like just little things. I'm a big gift giver, so like I'll put people on a 1 year anniversary gift
Yeah, yeah.
thing, or like a house anniversary they
I
call
love
it.
that so much.
Yeah,
I love
so
it.
it's like I put a lot into recognizing and celebrating the people I've worked with
Yeah,
before, and you know they they know I'm here, they
yeah.
know I'm still in business, and I'm not just
I
like
love that so much. So the guy that I just mentioned, Christos Provistalis is his name.
okay,
He goes, and I'm trying to get him onto the show.
nice,
He has a really good message and a good story. And he goes, you want to make your competition, you you want to make your competition wonder what the heck is she doing or what the heck is he doing
right,
based off of what you just explained.
yeah,
You don't just end at the transaction.
absolutely, yeah.
You keep them at top of mind. That's such an amazing skill, Molly, that you need to teach a master class on that. I really do think so.
Well, it takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I don't pay for like Zillow leads,
Sure.
because I'd rather not just cultivate new relationship with
Sure.
strangers, but dive into the people I already know, because those are the people that already know, like, and trust you.
Yeah.
And like, yes, I am still meeting new people, but I do it in ways where it's in organizations. Like I'm part of like a Rotary group,
Yeah.
I'm part of the Norwich Chamber.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not just like showing up and like throwing out business cards at those
Right.
things. Like I invest in those
Right.
organizations where I help them build, bring new members in, help them teach them to do the
Yes.
things that I'm doing,
Yeah.
because a lot of people that I are in my sphere are other
Right.
salespeople, and I've learned a lot through just other people in sales
Sure.
nationally,
Sure.
classes, all those things. So you have to just cultivate all
Yeah.
those things. What
Yeah.
works for you, put your own stamp on it, and then
Are you practicing this stuff? Like once you learn it, are you like going out and like just all right, let me take one or two the events that you go to, the seminars that you go to, take
absolutely.
one or two things. All right, now I have to practice this in real life scenarios. Because I think that's the hardest part.
Right.
Being able to take what you've absorbed, because it's easy to go and write down sheets of notes at these events and then toss them away and never see them again. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can't do everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen Marky Lemons, but she throws out like 30 million things in an hour class
Yeah.
of things that you can try to do.
Right.
Um, but definitely, learning even from other agents. Like that's why I go to these conferences where I'm meeting agents from all across the country, and then I'm in their social feeds, they're in mine, and I
Yeah.
can see what they're doing.
Right.
Like, what are people in California, top agents out there? What are they doing for their clients?
Right.
One thing I haven't done, which I want to, but I haven't like figured it out or been like on time for it yet, is doing like an Easter egg hunt for my clients.
Mhm.
So I want to do that.
Yeah. An Easter egg for like a specific client, or have them come over and just
I don't
like,
know. Like
yeah.
I've seen it done a few different ways. So you could probably like host it at a place and invite a whole bunch of people. I know some people like will do like this happened a lot in the pandemic. Well, they'll like say you got whatever, like they'll put a sign in your front yard or they'll put leave stuff on your front door.
That's
Like I don't know what it is, but
Easter
maybe next
2020,
year.
2025.
Yeah, that's happening sometime.
Let's bridge over to the realist, to building relationships within the industry. We just talked a lot about building the relationships with the clients and the skills that it's taken you to do that over the last 7-8 years. Uh, why is it important with building relationships with other realtors and other industry professionals? That is
For
because
sure.
we are so saturated with the same kind of people. Like there's a bunch of insurance agents, there's a bunch of realtors,
Yep.
mortgage people. But what do you find is the most important uh, thing that, or things that help you and for building relationships with other realtors?
Well, I mean, I learned everything I know from other realtors. Um, being part of a big team when I first got into the industry, I would just like listen to them on the phone, just be like, "Oh, that's how you talk to a client." Like I didn't have the confidence I have now. Like
Mhm.
you just learn so much just by being around other agents, helping them problem solve, uh, hearing just like their issues,
Mhm.
or, contractual issues, inspection issues, all those things. And when you're on the other side of a deal and you actually like the person you're working with,
Makes it easier.
it's just makes it so much easier
Yeah.
because you're not just trying to win.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the books I like is about the negotiation. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Um,
It's like how to win
never
negotiation.
split the difference.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a great book because if both people feel like they're coming away with something, then they feel like they both won.
Right.
And to feel like you just have to like one up or like have the last
Yeah.
word, like that's so destructive.
Yeah. When I observe you on these, not so let me backtrack. I'm not like just sitting there staring at what Molly Bruno's doing at these events, but we've been at a lot of events with each other over the
Yeah.
last few years, specifically more over the last year once I jumped into e-car
Mhm.
and involved in women's council a little bit. What I observe with you is you're trying to connect people.
Mhm.
You're not just worried about yourself. You introduced me to uh, at the last women's council at La Grua.
Mhm.
You introduced me to Bobby,
Yep.
and I love that so much. What's the benefit for that? What do you think is the benefit for the overall connectiveness of introducing me to X, Y, and Z person? Um,
I mean, I think I have a unique skill where like I meet someone, like I want to know everything about
yeah,
them. I want to know what they're passionate about, what makes them happy, what they're building towards. And then to be able to be like, oh, this other person may have some of those same goals and to connect those two people. Like it's like bringing a deal together,
yeah,
but it's in the community
right,
because I think like your podcast, like if I could bring someone to your podcast or just have you meet someone that you might have on your podcast, that's putting something out into the world that might
right,
benefit other people.
right,
Like
right.
I'm happy when everyone's happy
Yeah,
and
you are the walking givers gain people. You really
yes.
are. You really
And I think I really enjoy that slogan because people will remember like I didn't even remember that I introduced you to Bobby at the
yeah, yeah,
time.
I did.
But you
Right,
remember,
right,
and then you asked me to be on this. Like you know that about me that I'm trying to do good things.
right,
Like
right.
It's not to say it's like a inner motivation to manipulate people to get them to
No,
like
no.
me, but
It fills your cup.
yep, fills my cup.
It brings you joy, and we need more people in general like that. And I know we have a lot of people
Yeah.
that are like that. But then there's also a lot of people that are not like that. And this is
Yeah, I've tried to overcompensate for all the people who are like
You're doing a really good job
that.
with it. You're doing a really good job with it. Um, Probably know the answer to this. Uh, have you encountered some challenging relationships within the industry, and how have you overcome that? And what's that look like?
I think building coalitions with other agents
Mhm.
has really helped me be that just force. Like when I first got in the business, like knowing that your relationships are everything, your reputation is everything,
Mhm.
and then like being new in the industry, that's meant to me like go out and meet as many people as you can and help build those relationships. So that way, if you're coming across difficult people, it's everyone's going to check you out. Like when you're first getting into the industry, people talk about you. Like you can't stop that from happening. But if people are only saying good things, then they have less ammunition
Yeah.
to try to attack you.
Yeah.
And I've definitely, even in like leadership roles, um, with ECAR, Women's Council, there's definitely those difficult people that they don't quite get it.
Mhm.
They may be blocked themselves personally or whatever, so they don't have that big picture. And whatever's happening for them that day, they may be going through something. They're not trying to spread that joy,
Sure.
whatever. They're blocked. But I've I know enough people and have I guess the bigger picture to know that it's not just about them.
Sure.
You can't hold things against people, and just kind of like rise above.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a move on, like
Right.
it is what it is kind of thing. Like, Keith Turner said it on my episode. He said, there's a lot of sand in the sandbox, and there's no
Hmm.
need for kind of the
Exactly.
adversity, or the altercations, or whatever the case might be. Speaking to someone like me who, I want to dive into, let's just say I'm a new realtor
Mhm.
and I want to dive into building relationships. What strategies did you have in place for yourself to say, all right, let me map this out on my calendar, or let me ask for an introduction, and what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So I started doing like one-on-ones with people because I think you get a lot more depth rather than just being at a networking event and
Sure.
talking to someone for 5 minutes. Um, you know, Instead of just handing out your business cards to people, actually taking the time and like sales is supposed to be based on how many conversations you're having, but how many quality
Right.
conversations are you having?
Right.
And even if like someone like you, who I don't think I'm necessarily going to help you buy or sell a house in the next 6 months, but just like knowing what you do for insurance helps me do my job better
Right.
because then I have a bigger breadth of knowledge to share with my clients.
Mhm.
And then when I hand them over to you, I know that you're going to do a great job.
Right.
So a lot of times in sales, you're handing people off to other referral
Yeah.
network
Yeah.
related industries, and it matters who you're handing them off to.
Right.
Um, so knowing how to spot those people to connect with, because like a lot of people show up at these events and not all of them are quality people. So knowing how to or what to look for, like, are they consistent? Are they showing up at all these events, or they just go to one and,
Yeah.
think that they're going to have all your business?
Right.
Are they givers? Are they
Right.
going to, share that relationship?
Yeah. I think that's the number one misconception that I had early on, is that I could go to a networking event or networking group, and after the first month of being involved, I would start getting referrals.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm in plenty of networking groups where I don't get anything from, but
It's
I
not
may,
about that, right? It's
yeah,
about the relationships that you build.
exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm learning from the people more
Right.
than they could give me by
Right.
giving me a client.
Right. I said that I went to I had a conversation with a gentleman at the builders event at Keith's Appliances, and I'm not a part of the Home Builders Association,
Mhm.
but I want to be involved now
Mhm.
after that event. And he goes, well, why do you want to join? And I'm like, I want to join because of the knowledge that I just got from this event.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the people that are there. Yes, they were cool and fun people, but there was so much, as far as like the bills that are getting, brought up to in the legislation that's getting passed for certain things that impact
Mhm.
the people in our state. And he was like, I love that because people come in and think, oh, well, they're just going to get referrals and this, like,
Right.
and again, obviously, yes, right. I'm not going to, I'm not going to act like that's not going to help me,
Mhm.
and build my business,
Absolutely.
but that's not my number one goal, you
Right.
know?
I think they call it commission breath.
Yeah.
Like, are you there just to get deals and shake hands
Kiss
and
babies.
yep, essentially, or are you really there to get to know
Yeah.
people, be more genuine
Yeah.
and really like and since I'm so involved in the community aspect, I want to know who's running these organizations out
Right.
there, who can benefit from programs. Because right now, a lot of like the commercial real estate side of things I do, I need to know what type of small business loans are out there, what
Mhm.
commercial products are out there, and what maybe grants to help them
Sure.
get started. So that isn't just like an hour class that you can
Sure. Yeah.
take
Yeah.
and just pull all that information in. So I always feel like I'm out there like researching.
Yeah.
I want to know everything people know about topics that
Right.
I don't know about.
Right. Before jumping into that, because I want to ask you some stuff about the community development
Sure.
piece. What principles do you follow when it comes to developing relationships? What are some core principles that you make sure that I'm gonna, follow these to make sure that one, I build good relationships, I nurture them, and I try to reciprocate the same energy as people that I work with.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's the is helping build
Hmm.
organizations. I think that's kind of what I've gotten known for is if I'm part of an organization, then I'm going to be looking for other people who might be good fits for things,
Right.
because it's not just going to benefit me and my business; it's going to help benefit the organization as a
Right.
whole, help them meet more people because we live in an area where unless you're, like, out at bars, like, where are you gonna run into people? The grocery store? Like, I don't even go into grocery stores anymore. I just,
Pick
pick
them
up
up.
outside, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, without those spaces, like, I'm not going to the library, like, at the gym maybe, like, I don't talk to anyone at the gym.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so being able to, for me, I think, bring people together
Yeah.
and, I think I learned this early on in a networking, session, with, the chamber is you want to learn something about someone, but then also learn what they're looking for so that
Right.
if you connect two people,
Right.
then you're helping out them.
You become their center of influence.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So, being the source of, like people will call me all the time, like, oh, do you know a plumber? Do you do this?
Yeah.
So if you have all those people at your fingertips, then they're just going to call you for everything.
Right, right, right. So let's bridge into the community development. We have a few minutes here, but I really want to dive into that. What does that mean to you? The community development, the economic development. What's that mean to you? Give me some stuff that's happening right now,
Sure.
that you're really passionate about, and that you want people to know.
Yeah. So growing up in Norwich, Norwich used to be like the center of economic um, activity
Hmm.
because the river brought people up to Norwich. They had the mills, and then once things, I guess, decentralized from Norwich for either manufacturing or whatever, the region became just lower income, I guess, in general.
Yeah,
There's not as much industry. The jobs are service jobs, so the median income is a lot lower in Norwich than surrounding towns. I think New London has a
yeah,
similar issue. So growing up with that and then seeing, the rest of Connecticut where a lot of towns have like really high median incomes. I think East Lyme has it's like 100K is like the median income, household income there. So comparing that to like 40 in Norwich, you know, what are those things driving the dynamics in a community? Poverty obviously is one of them. Crime. Um, if people want to live in a place,
mm,
and those are things that we can't necessarily say like this town's a safe community because of fair housing,
right,
but we can direct people to the statistics, but we know what the statistics say,
Right.
essentially. So it's, whether or not Norwich has the statistics of like a safe community, we can't speak on, but we can help bring economic development, which helps bring business in, brings taxpayers in, helps people want to live in a community, be part of the organizations like PTAs, all these things. Like
Sure.
y- we all live in America. We have a democracy. We have a voice. Not everyone wants to be involved in making their community better,
Right.
but there's I think room to grow in Norwich, and there's a lot of people who want to put in the work and help things get better. And it's going to affect their quality of life and attract more people to live in the community like
Yeah.
yourself. Growing up in Norwich, a lot of people that I went to school with graduated, went to college, never came back.
Mm,
So it's like, 400 people I went to high school with,
sure.
those people didn't come back to the area. They're using all their skills outside of our hometown or,
Right. Right.
where we went to school.
Yeah.
And, they're probably in areas that are, very financially well off and all that. But it's like if we had collectively buckled down and stayed here, like how could we solve the problems
Right.
here?
Right.
And we're starting to see people move back to the
Yeah.
area because they had family here.
Mhm.
They maybe have kids, need help with their taking care of their kids, all that. So I think, and then people from who aren't from here who are live here now and see what a great quality of life we have because we don't have a ton of traffic.
Mhm.
It's not like you're driving around and there's like, homeless tent camps all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's like we have a lot of, natural beauty here. We have the coast, the shore.
Yeah.
Um, and just whatever we can do to it's like the sustainability,
Sure.
trying to keep people engaged, realize like they can have an effect on their
Mhm.
community.
What are some so again, I think when you told me about the community development piece, I had to kind of do a little more of a deeper dive into
Mm.
what actually is involved in that. So, from my understanding, um, it's group of people that go to the government and private sector for the development of the community. Is that more or less kind of?
For sure. I mean, every town I think is different. Like they
Sure.
may have organizations that are focused on this.
Hmm.
Like a lot of the chambers of commerce are focused on it. They might have committees for
Hmm.
it. Um, and like my talent isn't necessarily like legislating or like
Sure.
creating the policy that's going
Yeah.
to get people involved. But I think just my talent is educating people that
You're an
there
advocate.
yeah,
Yeah.
there are ways you can get involved
Right.
and pulling those people in. So like I told my boyfriend recently that I think he'd make a great legislator because he just has a great presence.
Yeah.
He can talk really intelligently. He's passionate about improving things,
Right.
but he's got more of an engineering brain.
Yeah.
So like in our area, we've got big employers like EB
Mhm.
and Pfizer. So like those are big, um, I guess like mechanically inclined
Yeah.
organizations where they need people who on these high level of engineering to
Right.
understand how the organization works, what their
Yeah.
needs are, and all those things. Like they're trying to push the offshore wind
Yeah.
projects now.
Sure.
Like these are all great things that will help our grid,
Yeah.
our environment,
Yeah.
and live here for
Right.
a long
And
time.
what you do is, you're trying to get folks to see the big picture, right?
Exactly.
And advocate for your small town. And once that kind of goes, who knows where else you go off. And I
Right.
think we're seeing a little bit of here in New London, kind of with,
Yep.
with what they're doing. Um, you know, I had a really fun time with this conversation, Mike.
Yeah.
This was a insightful, and I learned a lot from you. But before we let you go, where can people find you?
So they can find me on social media. My name's Molly Bruno on Facebook. You can email me, Molly at theutopiaco.com, or my cell phone. I guess I can put that
Of
out there.
course.
860-961-8627. Call or text.
And she's not on LinkedIn yet. or she is, but
I am on LinkedIn. I guess I gotta go through my invitations.
I'm probably at the bottom. So start with me first. Thank you, Molly. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it, and looking forward to just kind of what happens, with you and your brokerage, and um, the community of Norwich, and just continuously watching, you grow and succeed at what you do.
Yeah, thank you. I
Thanks, Molly.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.